Well, first of all, congratulations. If you fulfill this next term, you are the longest running U.S. Senator in Colorado history. How does that make you feel?
Well, it makes me feel great. I love Colorado, and I think this is a really important moment in the nation's history, and I am grateful to have the chance to bring the voices of Colorado to Washington. I spend as much time in red parts of Colorado as I do in blue. I feel duty-bound to represent people whether they voted for me or not, and the bills that I've written in Colorado, like the infrastructure work, the broadband work, the work on our watersheds and our forests, all of those bills have been written in Colorado, not in Washington. That's what I'm going to continue to do.
We heard a lot of voters, certainly those who voted for your challenger, try to link you directly to inflation in this country. Does that change anything when you get back to Washington during this third term?
I really don't. Look, I think that inflation is a global problem because we've got broken supply chains all over the world that we have to fix, and because we've had an economic recovery that's driven up the price of oil. Putin then invaded Ukraine, and that drove it up even more. So we're facing all these challenges together. I do think that it is critical for us to create an economy in America again that when it grows for everybody. The last 40 years, all the benefits of our economic growth have gone to the top 10% of Americans. That is not sustainable, and that was true even before we had inflation, and I really think we can do that as a country. We have to.
We've seen sweeping wins for the Democrats tonight, and you mentioned during your victory speech to see big win after big win go blue, that is Colorado directly rejecting Donald Trump. Explain that.
I certainly think that was a piece of it. I think that Colorado has seen that you don't have to settle for the chaos of Donald Trump. There are a lot of Democrats and Republicans that I've met throughout the years who thought that was the best we could ever hope for, and now over the last 18 months you've seen the most significant bipartisan infrastructure bill that's been passed since Eisenhower was president, bipartisan postal reform bill that's so important to rural Colorado, a bipartisan gun bill, the first in a generation to close over the NRA, the first bill to bring back an industry from overseas since Reagan started sending it all overseas, the semiconductor industry, and then the most significant veterans bill that we've passed in generations. That all was bipartisan. And then there was one bill, there was the health care bill I mentioned up there with cap costs for seniors, requires Medicare to negotiate drug prices. That is a pretty good track record of the last year and a half. And I think Colorado said, you know what, we'd rather have that than the chaos we had for the 4 years before this. And now we have to build on those successes.
One more question before we let you go. You said the tidbit about President Biden calling you. Love that he had the Camp Hale hat on. We gotta love that in Colorado. But what did he say to you tonight?
He just congratulated me, which I appreciated. He said how much he liked coming to visit Camp Hale, to designate it, and I told him how important it was to the 10th Mountain Division veterans and our veterans generally, that he made the trip, that he took the time to drive all the way from Eagle Airport to the Camp Hale site. And then we just said we look forward to continuing to work together.
Senator, congratulations.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Good to see you.